Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar about battery electrode materials. Today, I'd like to talk about what secrets in the battery electrodes we are able to find out when using AFM-in-SEM technology. I'm Veronika Hygrova. I'm head of applications in NanoVision. And so I'm happy that you are here. I will be happy to answer all your questions at the end of the webinar. But anyway, we have our colleagues here. So if you have any question, please ask in the Q&A and they will be answering during this webinar. So what is our webinar outline? I'd like to first of all introduce a little bit the AFM-in-SEM technology, and then I'd like to focus more on the key challenges and needs in battery research and industry, and what is our solution for the in-situ battery analysis, and what is the procedure and the measurement workflow. Further, there are some application examples I'm gonna run through. There are definitely more, so please ask if you have any question regarding another application. So what is Lightscope? Lightscope is the atomic force microscope, which is designed to be integrated into the scanning electron microscopes. So what you see over here is a Lightscope head, which is sitting on the SEM stage. And we see an opened SEM chamber. The setup of the AFM in SEM with Lightscope is further that the cables are going from the SEM. This is the representation of SEM chamber. So the cables of Lightscope are going via the flanges into our control unit. And the control unit is connected to the SEM detectors and the SEM PC. So everything is running in one single PC, both the SEM UI and NanoView software for operation of Lightscope. So, but first I'd like to start with a question, why the AFM in SEM? So both of these technologies, instruments, are measuring sample surface at nanoscales, at nanoscale, and they are using different principles of operation. So we are able to measure different properties and correlate them together at the same time in one place under the same conditions. So we are able to measure 3D topography with very high resolutions at direction, mechanical, electrical, magnetic properties, and combine it together with quite powerful techniques from SEM capabilities, fast 2D imaging, from wide field range to a very high resolution in XY direction. We can modify the surfaces using focus time, beam or gas injection system, measure elemental composition using EDS, or measure crystallography structure. And so what are the benefits of such combination? We are able to measure in situ, both SEM and the AFM. So there is no air exposure. We are measuring in the same conditions for AFM, EDS, SEM analysis, conductive AFM, and so on. We can measure correlatively from visualization of SEM through topography, conductivity, chemical composition, or sample prep. And I would point out third benefit as well, precise localization to the region of interest. So we can specifically select a particle, failure, defect, basically area of interest, and start analyzing. So we are providing information about the samples that are otherwise unable to acquire, or it's extremely complicated. So you can see a precise targeting. The AFM tip cantilever is here and the sample was in the cross section, we can choose exactly the grain we'd like to analyze in the cross section. Regarding the techniques, so there are several different techniques. I would divide them into 4 groups. So mechanical properties, sub-nanometer topography, surface roughness calculation, local elasticity, hardness can be analyzed from electrical properties, conductivity mapping, local surface potential mapping, local electrical properties. We can measure piezoelectric domains by piezoelectric force microscopy, magnetic domain imaging. Then all of these techniques we can analyze in the spectroscopy mode, IV curves, force distance curves, nanoindentation, or time spectroscopy. And most of these techniques make sense to correlate with the SEM. So all of them can be combined and compared what we see and what we understand is happening. Regarding the application areas, we have a broad application area. So from material sciences, low dimensional materials, steels, metals, batteries, ceramic or polymers and composites, through nanostructures, anything modified by focused ion beam gas injection system, nanostructured films, nanopatterning or nanowires. In semiconductors, mainly integrated circuits, failure analysis, current and leakage localization, and life sciences, for instance, cell biology, protein technology, or pharmacy. But today, we'd like to focus more on the batteries. So let's have a look at battery materials. So till now, as everything is working on the electricity, we have from wearables to smartphones, larger electronic devices. Everything is, or nowadays, almost everything is lithium ion based. And so as I'm not gonna go deeply in the battery principle function, but basically, as they are charging and discharging, doesn't matter what type of different cathodes and anodes it is. There are some discharge curves, they look different, they are degrading in some time. And to know well how they degrade, what is the performance of the battery and effectivity and aging, it's crucial to create better batteries and to create better devices. Either they sustain more, or they have better capacity, or they are safer. Those questions are all the time here, and we try to push as much as possible to create better devices. So, but how the basic parts of or how the batteries look like, basically they have different battery designs, but all of them are composed of anode, cathode, electrolyte, separator, and the case. So here are different from cylindrical to pouch designs, and the degradation processes are studied quite a lot, from large scale to very small scale. So we are focusing mainly on this part. So from tens of nanometers to hundreds of micrometers. And so what is of the interest, or what is researched? So from components, cathode active materials, solid or liquid electrolyte, solid electrolyte interface is quite crucial. Anodes, from processes, understanding of fundamental battery processes, recharging or cycling effects, battery safety lifetime, and basically the performance and the lifetime to prepare better performed batteries to improve the production and reproducibility or the cost. There are some challenges in the analysis, and the main one I would say air sensitivity. Batteries are complex systems and they degrade because of the air humidity, because of the cycling. And for preparing new materials, new components, or better components, the in situ correlative analysis approach is needed. And so let's have a look what solution we have developed for the in situ battery analysis. So first part, we have Lightscope, which is sitting in the SEM stage with the control unit. It is compatible. I'm gonna skip a little bit. So from the modalities, which is quite useful, is for the battery materials, topography, mechanical properties, electrical properties, I would point out. And it is compatible with many as what is already in the SEM, often focused ion beam gas injection system, EDS, EBSD, cathodoluminescence, and we are compatible with Clean Connect, Load Lock, Quick Lock from Thermo Fisher and Quorum. So we have Lightscope, we have the sample transfer module, which is crucial to transfer the sample without the air humidity touch. So we have the loading shuttle and the rails for the sample to get exactly to the location where it should be in the middle of the scanner, and then we can start analyzing and how it looks like in the SEM. So we have the sample in, and then we take the sample out. It's fully automatic, so there is no precise action required from the user. And so what is the measurement procedure and workflow on battery cathode active materials? And so for us, our samples are usually either solid electrolyte or liquid electrolyte, basically composed of cathode, solid electrolyte, cathode active material with solid electrolyte, and the current collector. So what we need to prepare a polished surface, and then we can analyze on the red top rectangle. In the liquid electrolyte, it's similar, just the structure where anode separator and cathode is slightly different. And for the connection, we then need the aluminum current collector to connect our bias to for analyzing the conductive AFM. And the samples from the top then look this way. So this is the cathode type in the cross section. This is the cathode active material grain, in this case secondary grain. And in the inner side is the primary particle. And you can also see some cracks, but let's discuss it a little later. And so what is the solution? We have two different ways how to think about it and how to analyze. First one is ex situ preparation. So we use the glove box with argon, where we can open and tape and prepare on the sample stop. Then we can transfer using sample transfer system to cross-sectioning device, can be broad ion beam polisher, and then we can transfer it again to the SEM, where the Lightscope is already installed, and we can perform the conductive AFM, EDS analysis, and so on. Second solution is in situ preparation using focus ion beam. So from glove box, where we again prepare the sample, we can transfer it directly using sample transfer system to the SEM and prepare trench using focused ion beam, uncover the first layers into the cross-section of the cathode material and analyze the, again, conductive AFM and EDS in the SEM. So for the first option, first we go to the glove box and prepare the sample and take it with, in this case, Clean Connect sample transfer system. So now the rod, we put the sample into the rod. And we can take the sample transfer system part to the polisher, where the cross-section is polished. And then we move it to the SEM chamber with light scope already installed. Now the sample is going into the light scope. We have probe prepared. And everything is ready for the analysis. The last step is to localize the structure of interest and navigate the tip to the location. Then we can start the analysis. The second preparation, procedure is making the cross-section already in the SEM. So we have a way from the tilt to use the focus ion beam and gas injection system via prepare a shallow tilt via a platinum wall to cover, so the curtains are much less than without the protection wall, and then we can get the tip into this trench and analyze inside. So this is how we created a protective layer. Roughly, we can fib mill the first part of the cathode material, and then we can finally polish the structure. And we have the cathode. We localize the cathode grain, secondary grain, and navigate to this area with the tip. So this is from the procedure part. And let's have a look at the applications. So let's start with cathode tape inspection in general. So the first question is, what is the local conductivity of each battery material, battery element? So what we're going to have a look at is a sample nickel, cobalt, manganese particles in solid electrolyte. It was cycled 200 times and prepared ex situ. So what we need to do, we need to localize the components and investigate their electrical properties and function. So first of all, we use the EDS to find what is the cathode material, what is the solid electrolyte, and where the carbon is. We can see it in the secondary electrons. And further, we analyze the conductive AFM. And as we can see, the dark part is correct. It's solid electrolyte, and it's we are analyzing electronic conductivity. So, and the solid electrolyte is mainly conductive ionically. So that is correct. Then we have a look in the cathode active material, which is conductive in some way, and carbon, which is strongly conductive, which confirms that the carbon is added, it's added there as an additive to make the interparticle connection better. So even though when there are cracks propagating, the carbon helps with the conductivity, the current flowing further. So, and this was analyzed using conductive AFM, SEM, and the EDS together. If we have a look at another one, the sample in situ analysis of mixed cathode active material. So we have a look at the nickel, cobalt, aluminum, nickel, cobalt, manganese particles, liquid electrolyte, and this tape was pristine. So the question is, how does each of the different grains contribute to the conductivity in mixed cathode active materials? And so first of all, what we need to do is identify each cathode active material, probe the difference in electronic conductivity, and correlate together and see what we have there. So first of all, we use the EDS to analyze chemical composition. So we see that we have the nickel, cobalt, manganese structures and NCA, the small secondary grain, and the aluminum collector. And so as we identified NCA and NCM part, we measured the conductivity. And as we can see, one is much more conductive than the other. And if we have a closer look, it's more than 3 orders of magnitude, which is much more than expected from just a different material. So we had a closer look at the SEM and see that there is a crack or delamination happening of the grain. So basically, this is probably the reason of the conductivity drop, that the collector is not fully connected with the grain. And so if we have a closer look in the EDS, we saw that this cross-particle interface is actually carbon. So the conductivity is flowing this direction. So preserves still the conductivity of this grain, even though it's not connected with the collector anymore. It was revealed thanks to the combination AFM, SEM, and EDS. We can correlate the data, so we measured topography, secondary electrons, conductive AFM, EDS. We can all put them together and place one on another and compare what we see and what is likely the reason for instance, for the failure. Let's have a look at cycling. So how the cycling is impacting the cathode active material. And how actually, what is cycling doing to these materials? So I don't want to go in depth, but what is actually happening during cycling, the charging and discharging is making the grains, let's say, breathe, expand and contract. And this expansion is actually making the cracks between the secondary grain or primary grains and creates some porosity and creates connections worse and worse with the cycling. And so from the macroscopical analysis of lithium ions, these discharging processes make a drop in the internal resistance to 50% in 150 cycles. So it's quite a small number, I would say, in regarding the cycles, and it should be analyzed and understood in order to make the performance better and make the number of cycles larger. And so the question is, how does the cycling affect the electrical properties of cathode active material in the microscale. So we need to probe the pristine and cycled sample and compare the data. So the analyzed sample is nickel, cobalt, manganese in solid electrolyte, and we have a pristine and cycled tape. So, and if we have a look at pristine and cycled tape, we already see some differences even in the SEM, that they are, it's, I would say, quite homogeneous structure. Unlike the cycled one, there are already some cracks. And so if we compare the conductivities, we see the pristine one, low homogeneous conductivity. On the other hand, the cycled one is high localized conductivity at the edges and lower conductivity in the middle part. And we found out that 85% resistance drop is after 200 of cycles. And so we wanted to have a closer look at the edges and measure a high resolution conductivity on particle edges. So because what are the edges? So we had a closer look at this part, which is there are many things happening regarding the conductivity. The levels are quite different. And if we have a closer look over here, we see there is a large topography difference. But within the topography difference, there are several orders of magnitude difference in the current, which means that the edges are actually not the topography artifact. That was one of the questions, what it is, but it is really there. So it's the real data we are getting, and it's suspected that it's a diffusion of conductive material. So this is not an artifact of the measurement. The tip was correct. The tip nicely measured even after it, but probably something happened there. And let's have because till now we measured more larger scale. Let's have a look at the inner part of the secondary cathode active material particle. And what we need to do, we use the nickel, cobalt, manganese particles in liquid electrolyte cycled tape, and we need to measure a local conductivity differences of the nano-sized particles. So first of all, we localize the structure. There are, for instance, what do you see? Intergranular cracks, quite a lot actually. And there is suspected area, for instance, because the material contrast is quite different. And so what we did, we chose the particle and measured the conductivity. And as we can see, there are some already in the image, some parts of SEM image, parts of cracks. And when we measure the conductivity, we see that some of the grains are completely turned off. And if we make a line, we can see that the current along profile, the numbers are quite high. So it shows us a complex conductivity distribution inside of the secondary particle. We can as well see from the image that the outer part of the grain, the primary parts are more conductive than the inner one, but we can as well see fails or defects in one or the other grain. So we are able, this way we are able to identify and localize disconnected particles. And we had a closer look as well on one feature, a particle contact loss. So how does the conductive additive actually influence the conductivity of the whole cathode active material? So we measure the conductivity difference, what we need to do, measure the conductivity difference with and without the additive. And so if we have a look here, we have the SEM. Two particles look quite the same, I would say. One is more destroyed than the other, but they are quite the same. And we can see quite strong differences in the conductivity. It's actually one order of magnitude in the current. And if we have a look in the EDS, we see that the carbon is actually missing on the first grain, much stronger on the second grain, and it corresponds with the conductivity levels, that the conductivity decreased by 85% when the carbon was missing. I'd like to summarize my talk. So, what we were talking about. First of all, I described some of the challenges and trends in battery research and industry, from battery components, materials, performance, price. I introduced our solution for in situ battery analysis. In situ correlative analysis at precise localized areas, or our optimized instrumentation and compatibility with other instruments. And I described a unique sample transfer system. So the sample has never touched the air and the humidity never was exposed to it. There are different workflows how we can use it, ex situ and in situ sample characterization and preparation. And we went through some of the applications from the cathode active materials, from identifying the components, conductivity, chemical composition, through mixed cathode active materials to see the lamination or failures. We had a look at the impact of cycling on cathodes, how the conductivity changes at bulk, materials, and grain boundaries, on the impact of carbon additive, how crucial it is to have it there that conductivity improves. And we had a look as well from inter to intra-particle connectivity and see the conductivity differences of primary particles. With this, I'd like to thank you. Please get in touch if you have any question. I will be happy to answer anything you ask. You can see more on our web. We have applications, application notes, product brochures, etc. We post regularly on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. We have our YouTube account where you can see more or educate yourself. Or we can meet us at conferences. Later on, we're going to be at APMC in Australia. So we will have the microscope there so you can have a look, or you can contact us directly. So I would be very happy to meet you and discuss your topics. With this, I'd like to thank you for your attention, and let's see you in another webinar or anytime. Thank you very much for attending. Have a nice day.